Hey, everybody. Thanks for being back. Today we have a little explanation of the difference between debt and deficit. Politicians have been using terminology and words to somewhat kind of confuse what the difference of the two are. The debt is not the deficit. Deficit is not the debt. They're two different words, obviously, but they get equated to the same thing. To a certain extent, they do involve each other, but we're going to explain exactly what the differences are and why and what they're saying when they say it. Now, the national debt, we all know, is 36 trillion, 37 trillion, somewhere in there, which is an astronomical, unimaginable amount of money. Nobody can, is unfathomable. It's crazy. So that's the debt. Now, when they talk about, you always hear the politicians talk about deficit, and they're going to reduce the deficit. They're going to reduce this. We're going to reduce that. We're going to deficit this, the deficit that, yada yada yada. They all, some of them say that they're going to reduce the debt. Now, there's a difference. Difference is the debt, as explained, 36, 37 trillion dollars. That's how much money we're in the hole, basically. If you go out and take out a loan for $100,000, you're $100,000 in debt. Pretty simple understanding. Now, a deficit, the national deficit, is what they always talk about. They say that there's we're going to reduce the deficit. We're going to shave off the deficit. We're going to, eliminate the deficit. That is not the debt. The deficit is if the government brings in $6 trillion and they spend $7 trillion, they have a $1 trillion deficit. They're sending out $1 trillion more than they're collecting. So the deficit on the annual budget is $1 trillion. If they're going to trim the deficit, they're going to try to shrink that for they're only spending 800 billion or whatever. It's still an astronomically amount of money, and it still means that they don't plan on balancing the budget or balancing the books. What they're doing is just saying we're going to overspend less, which none of us in the taxpayers get to do that. I mean, we all know that if we spend more money than we're taking in, we're going to go broke. Government just prints money. Now, the difference of explaining why this is extremely important, other than they're spending more money than they're taking in, is that when they take in more money, if they can balance the budget, right, then they're spending exactly 600 trillion or 6 trillion a year, and they take in exactly 6 trillion. That means we add nothing to the debt. The debt does not go up. We're even. It's not a good thing, but it's better than what's been happening. Now, if we can reduce the debt, that would be great. Can we get rid of the debt? No, we cannot get rid of the debt completely, but that's another video I'll explain. Right now, the idea is trying to let you understand what the problem with the debt being so high is. Now, I'm going to try to take something that everybody can picture in their mind. Is a medieval castle, right? Just think about a medieval castle, beautiful buildings. They're amazing architecture, ain't they? Everybody wants to go tour one. Everybody'd like to own one, live in one. But they're amazing. They're absolutely stunning. So you think about, just picture that in your mind, and picture the one that you would want to own, and you have in the back of your mind a value, and you know that it's going to be astronomical because it's a medieval castle. It's cool. Everybody wants one. Now imagine that There's 37 trillion of them in the world to select from. How much is that castle worth to you now? Because if you don't want the one, you can go to down the block, get another, get a better deal. Uh, and you can negotiate and things like that because it is not rare. There's 37 trillion of them in the world, right? So now think about the same castle and everything, but there's only 1,000 of them, which I might be. I'm not positive. I probably less than that, but now there's 1,000 of them. Now they're very rare. So the value is higher. So you can't negotiate because there's only so many of them out there. So the understand gives you the concept of more something is out there, or the more of something that's out there, the less is really valued. The value of it goes down because it's not rare. It's extremely common. Now, if you take that and equate it to the dollar bill, then if there's 37 trillion, how much is it really worth? There's 37 trillion of them. I mean, a business can't collect one, they're just going to collect somebody else's. Now, if you reduce the debt, which they cannot, I say reduce debt because that's all they can do. They cannot get rid of the debt. And like I say, I'll explain it in another video. That they can't get rid of the debt, but they can reduce it. So let's say there's 36 trillion of them. Let's say they cut it by a third, and there's only 12 trillion of them in the world now. Now, 2/3 of the debt went away, and 2/3 of, quote, the dollar bills in the world went away. They're still not rare, but they're a lot harder to come by 2/3. So they increase in value because they're more rare than they were. So that's kind of, in a general layman's terms, how you base value and how the US dollar is valued. The more of it we have, the more of them out there, the less they're worth. So the more value the less they are, the more value they have per dollar. So the reason why uh, they can't reduce or eliminate the debt is if they completely eliminated the debt, your dollar would be worth, value wise. You still get, let's say, you get $1,000 a week in a paycheck. The $1,000 is still $1,000. It doesn't change, but the value of that dollar went up. So you keep the same number of dollars that you receive from work, but the goods that you buy cost less of them to purchase. Just like a car. Let's say some new pickup trucks are $100,000. If $100,000 is what they're worth today, you eliminate the debt, and they get their act in gear. They start balancing the budget and living within our means, which they can do, but I don't think they will. It's way too easy to spend other people's money. It's not their money. They don't care. I can't say they don't care. They care. The caring is less. How about that? So if the value of something's less, $100,000 pickup is what it is today. You pay off the debt. They can buy goods and services and purchase things from other countries and things like that. The raw materials and everything to make a vehicle is less. So they can put it all together. The wages will still be the same. And labor will become the most expensive part of everything. And then let's say that $100,000 pickup now only costs $50,000. Great, right? Yes and no. At some point, uh, just like now, let's just use a round term of $1,000 a week that you make. If all of a sudden, snap of a finger, tomorrow your dollar is worth uh, 4 times more than what it is right now. So can buy 4 times as much, same amount of money. So that means everybody in the world can do that too. And if everybody in the world can do that, it isn't going to be long until we're all considered wealthy. More wealth we have in the country, if everybody is well off, is great. Doing fine, upper middle class, great. Wealthy, on the other hand, is where you don't have to go into the workforce. You don't have to be at a 9 to 5. You don't have to do them kind of things because you can live the rest of your life after working 4 or 5 years and not have any whereas you can retire. That would seriously hurt the workforce and start damaging the economy. We'd have to get more workers, but then we would be, quote, preying on the poor from other countries or whatever, however you foresee it. But if we take that and you try to live that way, it's a downfall to a country, a way of life. It will slowly go down, and nobody's going to take a reduction in pay. People are going to get angry over it because they're doing the exact same amount of work, maybe more from year to year, but they're getting paid 2% less. They have 2% less dollars. Yes, but they have the exact same value, if not a slight bit more of value. I hope that kind of explains the general idea of how they try to deceive you in politics. Politicians are, we all know what politicians are. And tries to explain to you kind of how to, in a layman's terms, understand what a dollar bill is valued at, how it kind of, in a generally broad term, can be applied to value. Just keep that in mind as you're thinking about how to do this stuff. I think myself personally, I would be very, very excited if they could balance the budget. I wouldn't mind if they took in, let's say, $1 trillion more than what they needed to fund the country and applied that to the debt. And at least until it's paid down, it's at 37 trillion or close to now, they could pay that down to 28, 27, get 10% of that. That would be fine. And then they can do a huge reduction where they don't collect that extra $1 trillion in taxes and we can keep our money. I think that would be amazing. I worry that people would keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing because it'd be a very popular thing. But they don't understand the ramifications of what the end goal would result in. But I hope that kind of explains. I'd like to hear a bunch of comments, maybe something you want to hear about, but that gives you a general idea of why they keep saying deficit and they try to get you convinced that it's the debt. They're not the same thing. Later.